This video is about the San Massimo project and how we built the eponymous city. While in Novigrad, each building was designed by a single architect in a fixed location. San Massimo was built and designed by many independent players. San Massimo was built on a large island with a relatively low amount of natural resources. Additionally, items like hopper and furnaces could not be crafted. Except for a small starter house, each new player started with essentially nothing. The currency we used was gold nuggets, motivated by the scarcity of gold on the island. For us, JasiCraft and haraxx, the rarity of the resources was a challenge and a lot of fun. Still, we adjusted the event only as much as it was necessary to provide a good experience for all participants. Since the land was very expensive, the insides of the first house was often used for the cultivation of wheat, carrots, and other vegetables. Especially in the beginning, you could never have enough wheat. To make it easier for new players, we divided the city into 3 groups. We called these groups guilds, which were led by elected guild masters. When someone bought a piece of land in the city, the gold went into the treasury of the city. The masters of the 3 guilds could unanimously decide on how to spend this gold. This way, the unique town hall was financed on an island in the river. To this day, an enchantment table can be found in its center, which is accessible to all players. The terrain was not always suitable for the construction of a city. Therefore, some natural hills had to be removed during the event. Initially, only a low amount of buildings were built in the city, even though there were quite many players on the server. A reason for this was the expensive land, but also the rarity of the furnaces themselves and their reduced smelting speed of around 1/10 of the vanilla value. The whole project was limited to a duration of 100 days and started at the beginning of August 2022. When you build a city with many players, problems occur. Unfortunately, some people did not care about the style of the neighboring houses or about the whole appearance of the city. These are common challenges when performing a project with many participants. To foster faster decisions, the form of governance of San Massimo was changed. Now, a king could rule over the city treasury, while a natural transparency of all spendings was required. At the same time, a regular monetary system was introduced as well as a new plugin enabling players to build their own stores. Now, the city commissioned construction projects, for example, the construction of the bridges, the city wall, and the main square with illumination. Construction work also continued on the town hall. As soon as the city earned money, the king spent it for the construction of new projects. The economy slowly gained momentum and more buildings were added to the townscape. At day 20, we began to remove the massive mountain at the border of the city. Also, the old city wall was torn down to expand the main square. In the following days, canals were built around the city to protect against attacks. Players who were already playing on the server before the event were now allowed to access their old money, enabling the construction of large buildings. The fostering economy enabled the city to finance prestigious construction projects like a harbor. The question why we are not building in creative mode can be answered quite simply. Building in survival mode automatically brings in a lot of time for planning and details. Everyone builds individually. As such, the area that one has laboriously worked for is cultivated. As an effect, there is a low amount of, but all of them are very beautiful. Shared warehouses, furnaces, and markets that you need to build a city under the circumstances provided by our server enliven the city. As such, one can immerse in the city life and enjoy the sight, which would not be possible if everyone would be in creative mode. Additionally, in our setting, helping out other players with the construction of their building sometimes comes with the reward of small tips in the form of materials. These tips can certainly enlighten the day or evening and provide a non-vocal way of showing respect and gratitude. Survival mode simply adds a certain charm to a server that we like. For the construction of a cathedral, I got a generous discount from the city because there was a fee for construction of buildings above a height of 40 blocks. Around this time, the Palace of JasiCraft was finished and my own tower was completed. The model for JasiCraft's palace was the Palazzo Vecchio in Florence, Italy. This medieval palace is truly massive and adequately rebuilt in San Massimo. It is the second most expensive building in the city. Many players think that it was the first building that looked good, although it was built of dirt. On day 40, work began on changing the course of the river, which increased the amount of usable farming land. Consequently, this space was used for huge cultivation areas, which were sold to players. Then the works on the city hall were completed, which was a great moment for the city since its construction took a long time and the facade was very elaborate. 5 days later, a fortress was built in the suburbs as an attack on the city was announced. The new main entrance of the city was the newly constructed Black Tower, which is the most important access to San Massimo to this date. Nevertheless, the city was not able to defend itself and was conquered by an attacking army in under an hour. The king was replaced by a representative of the attackers and peace returned. The new king continued to promote the construction of cathedrals in the city since they provided the only way to get villagers. The bigger and more beautiful such a building was, the more villagers were attracted. A casino was built and several towers were forming the new striking skyline of the city. Since another attack was imminent, the city fortifications were extensively expanded. This included a massive castle behind the city, which was literally chiseled out of the mountain. When the attack came, the 22 defenders were already excited because the city wall was completely renewed and many of the new players have never experienced a siege. Still, the city was captured at the last second due to a misinformation of the defenders. This frustrated the brave defenders of the city. Again, the king was replaced, who purchased all the remaining land from the city. Again, the governmental system was adapted unanimously. Now every player was allowed to found their own city or change his or her associated city. The player who owned the biggest share of the city became its king. On the 60th day, a farm world was added. However, it took 6 minutes to reach it on foot. The remaining days of the event were mainly spent peacefully building constructions and trading goods. Every major building of the initial city was completed. Now, the beautiful cityscape of San Massimo could be observed, which was dominated by the many towers. Towers often represented wealth in the Middle Ages. The casino was built completely in garish green, while its interior stayed empty despite of its good location. The City Hall stayed in the heart of the city. The model for this building was the old City Hall in Bamberg, Germany. The facade is very elaborately decorated, and the ceiling was decorated with coral blocks. The attic of the City Hall still represents the storehouse of the city. Next to it, the Sandstone Gate and 5 apartment buildings were located. They offered a total of 60 apartments for new players on our server. In the middle of the river, the Galerius Cathedral was located. The inspiration for this cathedral was the St. Peter and Paul's Cathedral in Brno, Czech Republic. Again, the cathedral was very elaborately decorated and furnished. Alongside the crop fields, many small houses were built. Since people liked to fish on the server, these houses were quite popular. The harbor is one of the 3 entrances to the city and forms the connection between the rental houses and the other parts of the city. Unfortunately, this area was not too popular due to its remoteness. Right next door to JasiCraft's palace, another palace was located. The inspiration for the roof was also the Palazzo Vecchio in Florence, as well as the Golden Roof in Innsbruck, Austria. We got the idea for the built bridge when we visited Ponte Vecchio in Florence. On the main square, one tower stands out particularly, which also belongs to JasiCraft. This tower was inspired by various towers in Prague, Czech Republic. Opposite of the tower is my own tower. The model of this tower was the Torre degli Asinelli, which reaches almost 100 meters high and is located in Bologna, Italy. To this date, there is no elevator in the original building because the tower could collapse during the assembly of an elevator. Fires and an accidental hit from a cannon have damaged the 900-year-old tower in the past. What a medieval masterpiece! The Black Tower is inspired by the Gate Towers in Prague, even though they are not as dark in color. The distinctive color helped in the communication of the defenders during the defense. Behind it is the largest cathedral in the city, which was inspired by the Cathedral of Genoa, an incredibly impressive cathedral. A huge rose window is located directly above the massive portal of the cathedral. The Romanesque cathedral was unfortunately covered in scaffolding during our visit. Striking features are the black and white construction, which are very unusual for Minecraft churches. This cathedral also has a magnificent interior. Personally, I find it fascinating. The city's main castle was also expanded further. The mighty castle from the beginning is now only the entrance area of the actual castle. The lower part also had to be rebuilt several times. Before, it was possible to jump from the high buildings to the gatehouse, which made its functions pointless. Probably, the castle will become even bigger in the future, which depends on how well the city is organized. At this point, a big thank you to all participants and helpers of the event. Every single one of you has been indispensable for the success and joy this project brought to us. The production of a video of this quality takes many months of work. If you want to support this work and future projects, please share the video with your friends. It helps us enormously.